What's up, guys? Tim Little, Matt Allen. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today's video, our official launch of the TacticalBassin mini flex rig.
Now, we've already talked about the new mini flex in a couple of videos, but today is the official launch. We're going to, one, explain to you what this thing is for, why we felt we needed it. We'll walk you through how to build one, and just cover the basics of this thing and just A-rigging in general, right? It's winter time. We'll talk about all that. But the mini flex, just right out the gate, comes just like our standard flex rig. It comes with snaps on it, but it also comes with hyperwire split rings in the bag. And I'll show you all that in a minute. Tim's gonna do the bulk of the talking here. I'm gonna build out a rig for you. Just a couple of things before I start building. The rigs, the wires are always perfect, which is one of the things that has driven me nuts in the past. As I've played with every rig on the planet, if you pay attention to where the wires are coming out of the head, that by itself will tell you which way to bend those wires. And then again, it's going to come with your owner centering pins already on the 3 dummy arms, and then it comes with snaps on your 3 main arms. Today I'm going to switch them out for the hyper wires. The reason those come in the bag is not because you need them, it's because that's how we fish our rigs. That's what we believe in. So we're not going to sell a rig that isn't the exact way that we fish it. But it comes with snaps so that a guy who doesn't have tools and doesn't care can just immediately go fishing. The first thing I wanted to show you is that I'm going to put a Matt Allen head on the stock snap. There is a review on Tackle Warehouse on our main rig that says this cannot be done, and it drives me insane because Lord knows it's not hard.
We designed it for that.
But we literally made it to do that, but I don't know. Somebody thought it couldn't be done, and that review exists, and we can't dispute it. But there's one on a snap, and with that, I'm gonna start changing this rig out. I'll put split rings on it, start bending arms. You do your thing.
Yeah, you guys know, if you've been following along the channel for the last few years, that Matt and I love wintertime A-rigging. It's probably our number 1 or number 2 technique through this time of the year. And we designed, we partnered up with Hog Farmer, makes great A-rigs, a lot of other tackle and such, scroungers, that sort of thing. But Scott at Hog Farmer makes great A-rigs, so we had some really specific things that we wanted. Some wire size. We wanted a rig that was still durable. You know, you're not going to break wires, but it's going to have lighter wire. It's going to have some flex to it. So we designed the Tactical Flex rig a couple years ago, and that's been our go-to rig. It caught several double digits on it. Right out of the gate, it's a 6-wire rig. It's not a 5-wire. So you're going to have 3 dummies and 3. I mean, you can rig it if you want, depending on your state regulations, however you want it, but we have it set with 3 dummies, rigged up for 3 dummies and 3 hooked heads. And that's important because regardless of your state laws, unless you have to have less than that, like even when we go to states where you can throw 5 hooks or 10 hooks, we still just throw 3 because when you set it up properly, they always eat the same baits.
Totally.
So here, let me show you guys some size comparison real quick. So here is our Tactical Flex. Here is our new Tactical Mini Flex, considerably smaller. Those of you guys have been fishing the last couple years know that there's been more pressure than ever on our fisheries. A lot more fishermen out there enjoying catching fish, fishing, and sometimes you just have to downsize. You know, when I know for me, recently I've noticed a lot of the bait fish are smaller shad. You know, your 2.8, 3.3 size Keitech size bait fish. So when you're throwing a full size rig with a big 4.8 on there, sometimes it can be overkill. So again, looking at these rigs in comparison, quite a bit smaller presentation, but still the same wire thickness, still has that flex in it. You're not going to break them. Actually, you just stuck a massive catfish that ate the entire rig.
Yeah, you want to talk about doing a little bit of testing to see about durability. Yeah, I just had the biggest flathead catfish of my life eat a Tactical Mini Flex and swallow it whole.
Ate the whole thing.
When I got that thing up to the boat, it had all 6 wires in, just the head of the rig sticking out. And all she did was just pancake it. I had to take my 3 top arms and bend them back up a little bit. That was it.
It's amazing.
Because yeah, it's built out of the exact same wires. Because my big concern when we first started talking about this was like, we're downsizing to get the bites, but you know we're gonna hook a giant, right, and we're gonna be dead meat. So we built it out of that exact same wire, so there's no loss at all of strength. Here, one thing, and then I'll get out of your way again. I've got my my dummy arms bent up now. You can see the layout there. The first one goes straight up. The other 2 go out to the sides. The most complicated part of the whole thing was bending the snaps to get them off because they were in my way. So I'm gonna throw the rest of my split rings on, and then I'll bend my main arms out too. My center arm, which is slightly longer, stays straight. My other 2 arms go out and to the sides. Biggest mistake I see people make when you go to bend a rig is you don't want to grab the arm and bend it against the head. I pinch that wire ever so slightly and then bend. That way it comes out of the head straight, then kinks. You don't want to come kinked out of the head. That's a much weaker connection, and eventually you'll break at that point. But if you back out, you know, an 1/8, 1/4 inch, and then do your bend, it's much stronger. There's room for some give there coming out of the head, and it'll be way more durable.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I see a lot of people make that mistake. Yeah, you want to come off the head just 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, and then bend up to make your bend. So you can see we got the 3 wires, the 3 dummies up top. This does come bladed and non-bladed. So if you're on a gin clear fishery where maybe it's a highland reservoir or something and you want to throw something that doesn't need a bunch of flash, we also have it available in a non-bladed as well. How you doing on rigging?
Doing good. I'm putting my dummies on right now. So this is the Damiki Armor Shed 3-inch. The Keitech 2.8 is another really good fit. I really like this Damiki on here because they're super durable.
Durability is insane.
You can go days and days and days and days and not change out a single dummy. But you take the owner's CPS spring, it comes stock with that already on there. You take your unrigged swim bait, push it into the nose, and then here's the trick. I mean, I went years before I realized that this would make a difference. When you go to screw this thing on, bunch that swim bait up, push it on there hard before you do your twists, and it gets a way better bite into the swim bait, and they stay on there much better. So there's my 3 dummies. Now I'm gonna bend my main wires. So again, I'm gonna pinch, then bend. Pinch, then bend. There's my main wires now out to the sides. So 3 dummies up top, 2 main wires down low, and then my center wire. I'm gonna go ahead and get these going. You feel free to talk rigging or whatever else you feel like.
Yeah, another tip that I like to do, we talk about durability. When you go to put your actual main baits on, your actual hooked baits on, go ahead and take some super glue and put a little dab on the top and then slide your bait on and let that set. That will add, we all know that Keitechs get pricey, especially if you're going through tons in a day. If you add that little dab of super glue right before you slide that bait up onto the head, that will make that bait last a lot longer and catch a lot more fish on that single bait.
Probably the one other thing that I'd like to add, so I'm putting the Matt Allen head on these in the 1/8 ounce. That's my main head. That's what I like to throw 99% of the time when I'm rigging. The 1/8 ounce has a pretty small hook. It's just a heavy wire hook. Fits in a 4.8 Keitech, fits in a 4.3, fits in a 3.8. I mean, you can put it in all these different heads. So even on this downsized rig, with that head in an 1/8 ounce, again, we've sacrificed 0 strength.
Right.
You get a 12-pounder that eats that thing, it's the same as having them on a big full-size rig. You're good to go. But this rig is all about downsizing, right? So the tactical head, all the way down to like guppy style heads, because you can take this. Our goal, I'm rigging as much as I'm listening, so I'm sure I missed some of it, but our goal is 3.3 to 3.8.
Right.
But you can absolutely throw a 2.8 on it. That wasn't the core of what we were aiming for, but you can do it. So you can go to a really small head. And again, I'll get back out of it because I'm sure you were already talking about those things.
Good.
All right.
So Matt's talking right now. He's rigging up 3 1/8 ounce heads. So 8, 8, 8. That is great, especially if you're fishing 2 to 20 foot, right? But say you're the guy that's fishing clear Highland Reservoir and you need to fish 30 to 40 foot. One tip for you guys, doesn't matter if you're throwing the normal size tactical flex or the mini, if you need to add weight to your farthest back middle bait. 2 things. Adding that extra weight obviously lets you cast farther. It keeps that bait down, but adding it in the middle opposed to adding it on the sides, when you go to launch that bait, if you have the heavy weights on the outside, they're gonna collapse in and they're gonna foul at least half the time. So leave the outside baits, lighter heads, and add your weight to the center. Again, it's gonna make that bait track better. It's gonna keep it down on the bottom, slow rolling. A lot of these fish this time of the year are deeper, unless they're up shallow chasing bait. That is a way to be able to fish that rig down, especially with forward-facing sonar. Now that we can see that rig,
you see that your rig's rising and you don't know.
You're like, man, I need to add a ½ ounce or whatever it needs to be to keep it down, but add it to the middle.
I should have done this with 3.3s to really show the size difference. I went with 3.8s.
Okay.
I thought about it after the fact, but there is a built-out rig, and that took about twice as long as it would take if I was just sitting and building a rig and not thinking and talking and everything else. But do you have a full-size one again to compare to?
Yep.
The size difference overall, length of arms, size of baits, there's head height is the same in both of those. It's a staggering difference.
And you really notice it in the water.
Oh,
it just looks like a nice, tight, small bait fish ball. It looks amazing.
You notice it in the water. You also notice it when you're fishing. Probably the biggest thing outside of the fishability, getting more bites, is there's a lot of guys who don't like rigging just because it's hard, right? It beats you up. They're using a big swim bait rod or a musky rod, and they don't want to do that. That's not how we rig. We rig on light tackle, and especially the little guy. 7.5 medium heavy, 7.6 medium heavy. Did you talk about that stuff?
I have not talked about rods and reels.
Go for it. Go for it.
All right, so yeah, Matt teed that one up. So especially the mini rig, you know, we're downsizing. We're looking to follow up behind guys, throwing something a little bit different, picking up bites on those finessier fish, right? So we're going, you can still go braid to fluoro, you can go straight fluorocarbon, either 16 to 20 pound, but you go with a lighter rod. I'm still going with a 7.6, but I'm going with a medium heavy. You don't need a broomstick to throw these baits. And when you're throwing this all day, it's just so much easier on the shoulder, so much easier on the elbow, because you're adding those rod twitches, you're adding the reel handle turns, you're adding that movement to that rig, and it's a lot easier throughout the day when you're throwing it on lighter, more forgiving gear.
Absolutely.
As far as the big rig, we throw it on a 7. I think Matt, I agree. We both throw it on a 7.7 heavy. A lot of times we're adding a little bit heavier heads to that, and it's just a bigger overall rig in the water. It's a little bit more cumbersome, but we're throwing that on a 7.7 heavy.
Can I comment on that a little bit? So over the last 5 years, I'll bet I've thrown a rig on 30 or 40 different rods, trying to find, well, 1, because I'm fanatical, 2, because we always want to know, because people ask, right? Is this a good rod for this? Is it not? Couple of things that make all the difference. When you're throwing a rig, especially a heavier rig, you either want a rod that is full grip, so solid cork or solid foam, or if it's going to be a split grip, you want it to be a smooth transition. If it's like a big ball on the end, you will bust up your side when you're on a good rig bite. But hands down, that 7.7 heavy X Pride is my favorite rig rod. And we both came to that separately somewhere last year, because we got on the boat together and you're like,
I really like this rod, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, last I heard you throw that rod, right? And no, we both had settled on the same rod. It's a remarkable rod that loads really good through the mid. In fact, even though I was throwing the mini, that was the rod I had in the boat when I caught that giant catfish. So I caught it on the 7.7 heavy with a mini flex, no problem. I mean, it was a battle, but it was over really quick.
Yeah, we just had that big bag on, on the A-rig too, on that exact
That was
project.
all on the 7.7 Heavy, right?
So I think Matt talked about it, maybe he didn't, but primarily on these mini rigs, we're talking 3.3 Keitechs, 3.8 Keitechs. If you can get away with throwing a full rig on 2.8, so you're gonna have to downsize your dummy baits a little bit. But as far as our favorite dummy, it's gonna be that Demiki Armor Shad. Durability is key. When you're going through packs of baits a day, it just doesn't work. You know, fish just thrash these things. So durability is key. And then the net bait, that's another really
spanky. So what I wanted to show you is not just the size of the rig, right? But our baits and everything are downsized when we throw this rig. So my standard, or our standard dummy bait on our main rig is a Little Spanky or the Reaction Innovations Little Dipper. Very similar baits. So that's the main dummy that we throw. Well, when we go to the mini and you go to that Armor Shad, I mean, even the dummies, look how much smaller they are. Just a staggering difference in the overall profile of everything on that rig.
Yeah, another one you can go to if you want to stay with the Keitechs, you can go with that 3-inch Easy Shiner. That's another one. But the durability in those two is phenomenal. One other tip I wanted to talk about real quick, when you do get these out of the package, it's got a built-in swivel. It's got a built-in swiveling head, so it eliminates line twist. Sometimes they're a little stiff, just grab them and spin your bait, and that will break that swivel free, so it'll save you pain and line twist later on. And then as far as storing, you want to talk about storing real quick? A-rigs are always a pain when they're in the rod locker.
They are a pain. So we store them differently, but in the rod locker or on deck, A-rigs can be a complicated mess, right? You lay them down with 12 other rods and now you've got a giant disaster on your hands. I go the simplest route possible. Well, you go ahead.
I'm just going with this guy right here. It's, I don't know what it's called, a Rig Ranger. We'll link everything down below in the video description. But it's made to, when you have this rig on your rod tied up, you just run the head through, pull it through, and it just collapses everything to a nice, neat, orderly fashion. You still can hook this on your hook keeper on your rod, and in your rod locker or out on the deck, it just keeps those wires out of your way.
And what I've done for years is just taken the standard rod sleeve, but in the 7'6", the longer one, and you take that and you just slide it all the way down the rod, and then when you get to the head of the rig, you just keep right on sliding, and I get to about there, and that's where it bottoms out on the rod, and it just collapses everything. And I leave them that way on the deck of my boat when I'm fishing. And then if I need to grab that rod, I just quick slide that, and I just shoot them to the bottom of the boat, right? There's just rod sleeves laying all over the boat, but slides right off and you're set. I mean, it's simple. It's nothing.
Yeah, we're super excited about this little mini flex rig. We've caught a ton of fish on it. R&D has been fun. Just lots of fish. Made a few tweaks, but very happy with the overall finished product. Looking forward to hearing your guys' fish catches, seeing the comments. But if you guys haven't already, check out the mini flex rig. We're really excited about it.
Yeah, and in the description, we'll link the mini flex, the standard flex. We'll give you the exact components we use for the mini flex, blow by blow, the pieces that we use to build it. Same thing for the standard rig, the rods we use to throw them. Just like every video, that description has more information than the video itself does. We just put everything in there to make it as organized and as easy as possible for you. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.